Hi guys, and welcome back to a lesson in Algebra 1. Today's lesson is Unit 3, Lesson 7. We're going to continue talking about domain and range, but we're going to be talking about it with a continuous relationship. So something that's like a line or maybe a curve. And so today's lesson, how you know you're successful is that you know what domain means and how to find the domain of a continuous relation, and what range means and how to find the range of a continuous relation. Do not forget, domain is your horizontal component and range is your vertical component. Okay, so let's just go remind ourselves what a continuous graph is. So a continuous graph is just simply going to be a graph made of lines. Oh gosh, why did I just write on the line like that? Let's try that again. Lines or curves. Okay, the domain is going to be all x values. And you're going to list it from smallest to largest. And let's think about for a moment, when I say we're going to list it from smallest to largest, let's think about, our x axis. So this is my x. Your smallest numbers are going to be over here. Like say it's going from -5 to +5. So when we read it from smallest to largest, when I say we're going to read it from left to right, it makes sense, right? So our smallest is on the left-hand side and our largest is on the right. Okay, now range is going to be all your y values. And if you think about how your y-axis is written, it's the up-down. So down here at the bottom is -5, and up here at the top is +5. So if we list these inequalities when we go write them from smallest to largest, it makes sense that we're going to be reading the graph from the bottom to the top. Now, I am recording this ahead of time, of course, so if I am ending up going too fast, simply pause it. Okay, so let's examine how to write domain and range. We can write it in a couple of ways. The first way is that we can write it as an inequality. So an inequality, when you look at the graph, you can have an open circle. Well, how would we write that open circle as an inequality? We're going to use either this or this, the less than or greater than, but no equal sign in it. Now, if it is a closed circle, okay, we can end up doing less than or equals and greater than or equals. And then this would also apply to infinity. Okay, so if we have negative infinity or positive infinity. Let's go ahead and write this down. So let's take an example. So an example domain written in this. Let's say that I have a domain that is falling between 8 and 10. So my x value is falling in between those. If it's two open circles, like an open circle at 8 and an open circle at 10, I'm going to use that particular type of inequality with no equal bar in it. Let's look at an example range, how it might look. Let's say that I have a closed circle at -5. And so everything that's bigger than that, you would say your y is greater than or equal to -5 if it had a closed circle. So there's no graph here to look at. I'm just giving an example of a way that we might write these. Let's look at interval. So in interval, you're going to use parentheses for open circles And infinity, so, infinity, you can write it like positive infinity or you can have negative infinity. And of course, my, infinity sign's a little special. So it's, if yours is a little weird looking too, it's okay. Um, then if we don't have an open circle, let's say we have a closed circle, we're going to use brackets. Okay. So this would be like for your everything else. Like closed circles. Okay, so just in examples of how that might look, you see how I wrote that domain up here where it was 8 less than x, which is less than 10. How I would write that if I were writing it in interval notation is I would do 8, comma, 10. And because it was 2 less than signs, there was no equal bar in it, I'm going to do parentheses around those. Okay. If I wanted to show that it was like this range, that it was starting at -5, that's the smallest, and then it was going to infinity, okay, because that's what it's showing us, it's going to infinity. Because it has the equal sign, I'm going to put a bracket, and then my infinity is going to have a parentheses. So we can even, try to color code this a little bit to keep it straight in our head. So if it's a less than or greater than, that's going to be like for your open circle. Your open circle down here, you're going to do parentheses. And that's also true if it's infinity. Okay. If we look at intervals, we can see that if it's got the equal sign in it, we're going to use, that's going to be like if it's a closed circle or infinity. And then if it's a closed circle here, we're going to use the brackets. Okay. So we'll kind of flip back and forth between those down here in the examples. And so let's scooch on down and see what's going on. When I look at these, I'm immediately going to break them up into their components. Okay, so you don't have to draw anything yet, but would you agree that this is a sideways line, right? It's got some x value and it's going to have some y value of it. Okay, so let's think about what's happening. So my x value, it's going to be starting over here with a closed circle and then it's ending with an open circle. Okay. And so the smallest x value is going to be this -4 and the largest is the 4. Okay, that's, smallest to largest. So I'm going to put my smallest and my largest. I know my x falls somewhere in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to put this x in the middle. Now, this x, because this is a closed circle, let's just kind of scooch up and let's see what it remind us what it says for a closed circle. Okay, a closed circle, we're going to have that equal sign in it. We're going to put that equal bar in it. My x can be anything bigger than that -4 or exactly equal to that -4 up to the +4. Now the +4, it's an open circle, so I'm not going to put that equal sign in it. Now, if I were to write this in interval notation, I am going to put my small number, then my big number. It's going to be a bracket if it's included. Okay, so this closed circle, we can see up here, we're going to use that bracket. Okay, so that's saying it includes that -4. Now, if it's an open circle, the open circle is going to be a parenthesis. Okay, so that's how we would write the domain in both cases. Now, let's break up the y part. So the y, when I look at this, it's starting down here, right? It's going from here up to here. It's got a closed circle up top and it's got an open circle down bottom. Okay. It's going from -3 up here to +3. So let's write down those numbers. The smallest is my -3. My largest is my +3. And my y is going to fall somewhere in the middle of that, right? It's going to fall somewhere in there. So I'm going to put my y in the middle. The open circle's on the bottom, so I'm not going to have an equal sign in it. My closed circle is up top, so I am going to put an equal sign in it. Okay. And what this is saying is that the y can be almost -3, but not quite. It could be -2.9999999, but it's not going to be exactly -3. And then the highest it can be is exactly 3 because it's got that closed circle. Okay. So that's the difference between the open and closed circle. Is open, it can be almost that number. Closed means it can include exactly that number. Okay, so if we're going to write it in interval notation, let's go ahead and write our -3 and our +3. We're going to put a comma in the middle. Now we got to decide if we're going to use a bracket or parenthesis. Okay, the smallest is down here, and this one, it's an open circle, so I'm going to do a parenthesis. And the largest is up here, and that is a closed circle, so I'm going to use a bracket. Okay. Let's go to this next one and let's break it up into its components. Okay, we have a closed circle down here. Now, look at this. We can see that this is going on into infinity. When it says the arrow like that, we know that this is going to infinity. Okay, so it's going to positive infinity, 92 million miles worth, it's going to positive infinity. It is starting here at -4. Okay, so my domain, I can go ahead and write -4 is the smallest, and my x is going to be everything greater than that. And because it's got a closed-in circle, I can put an equal sign in it. So my x is going to be anything equal to that -4 or greater to infinity. I can write this with my interval notation. I can put my -4 in positive infinity symbol and put a comma in the middle. This is starting with a closed-in circle, so I'm going to put a bracket. And then infinity, if we just go up here, remember infinity is an open circle, and you don't even have to remember it. It's right here in the notes. Okay, so there's a reason why you write it down. Because you're going to forget, because you're a human being. Human beings forget. That's what we do. All right, let's look at the range. So my range is going to be my y component. So it's starting here with a closed circle. And then again, this arrow is showing us that it's just going up to infinity. Okay, so now where does this y start? It starts at -3. Okay, so I can put -3. It's got a filled in circle, so I'm going to put the equal sign with it. And I can tell that my y can be anything greater than that -3 and include that -3. So it can be -3 and greater. So that's what that's telling us. When we convert that to interval notation, we're going to put -3. Now, this is going up to positive infinity in the y direction. So we can put that. The filled in circle is going to have that bracket. And because it's infinity, it's going to be open. Alrighty, let's look at this last one. What if we have like a weird shape? Okay, so if we have this weird shape, we're just going to think about the boundaries of what's happening. So this x component, this is my x value. It's starting here at -3 and it's going to here at +3. That line is passing exactly through it. So when we go -3 to +3, and my x can be somewhere in the middle, We know that it includes that -3 and +3 because it's passing through it. So we're going to have the equal sign in it. We can write that in interval notation because it's got the equal sign in it. When I write my -3, comma, +3, it's going to have brackets because it includes exactly those numbers. It includes exactly -3 and exactly +3. The same way for my range. Okay, it starts down here at -4 and it goes up here to +4. All my y values are going to fall in between that. But that line, it passes through exactly 4. So we know it's going to go from -4 to +4. My y is going to be somewhere in between that. It is definitely including both of those. And so I'm going to write my less than or equal and then my less than or equal. To convert that to interval notation, I'm just going to write my -4, comma 4. And because it includes exactly those points, I'm going to use my brackets. And so, until next time, my friends, that is the end of the notes today. Bye.